The StarGoids are growing in number and they're moving ever closer to the bubble. But what exactly are they and what are they going to mean for the game? Well, we don't know for sure, but today I'm going to give you my best guess. Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Elite Dangerous. Today we're going to talk about the StarGoids and what I think they are, how I think they're going to affect the game, what kind of things, what kind of changes they're going to bring when they eventually reach the bubble. But first, let's talk about what we know for a fact. Well, we know that, at least at the time of this recording, there's 8 of them. We know they're Thargoid in nature, and we know that they, at least in the game file somewhere, these StarGoids refer to an object called a Thargoid Titan. Likely some kind of Thargoid mothership. From here on, it's going to be pure speculations. But this is a topic we've discussed a lot over on my Discord server, discord.d2a.com, by the way. People have different opinions, but what I think it is I think what will happen is obviously towards the end of November, we're going to have update 14. With update 14, I think that's when the StarGoids are going to arrive. Most people agree that's going to be the case. But I don't necessarily think they're just all going to show up in Seoul. Now, what I think is going to happen is I think the StarGoids, when they arrive, they're going to spread out to, let's say, 8 different systems, if there's still 8 of them at this point in time. These systems is likely going to be affected in the same way that the system with the Proteus wave is affected, where Guardian equipments get damaged. It's very common that we see Frontier do this, where they want to test out new things before they implement it full scale in the game. So they make some kind of excuse, some kind of law event up where they can test new technologies and test new changes they want to make to the game before they do the full scale implementation. We've seen this multiple times, and it's always been Frontier's way of doing it. So I would be surprised if the whole Proteus wave and the fact that this effect we see in the system with Guardian technology being destroyed, that's just not a precursor for something that's going to happen with the StarGoids arrive. So I think they're going to spread out in 8 separate systems, and those systems are going to be affected just as with the StarGoids. Sorry, with the Proteus wave. In those systems, what I think will happen is they will begin to spawn these conflict zones, basically. Likely it's going to be like some Thargoid conflict zones. Again, we saw Frontier test this, where they tried to put Thargoid interceptors into a conflict zone together with a capital ship. Now, there was only a human capital ship. There was a obvious lack of a Thargoid capital ship on the other side of the fight, making the fight quite one-sided. So it would be natural to assume that these StarGoids, when they arrive, they're going to show up as a capital ship in these conflict zones. And that means that we can go and fight like interceptors and probably also fight that StarGoid in those conflict zones. How exactly the game mechanic around it is going to be, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure there's going to be some kind of mechanic, some kind of game loop you have to go through in order to make the StarGoid retreat. And then you make the StarGoid retreat and you win the conflict zone. Whether they just basically done a copy-paste of what they do with the capital ships, with a lot of like surface modules you have to go and shoot, I don't know. My guess is it's going to be a scaled-up variant of the way we fight Thargoids today, where you're going to have to shoot something that's going to make part of the ship vulnerable, like when we have the hearts exerted on the interceptors, and then you're going to have to go and shoot that, and the thing will eventually disappear. That's my guess, at least. But one thing that everybody, of course, is talking about is on-foot Thargoid combat. There's been some discussions on whether we're going to be able to board these StarGoids and basically fight on the inside of them on foot. It could happen, but I think it's unlikely. What I think is more likely is that these systems, some of the Odyssey settlements where we already see conflict zones, like human conflict zones, there will also now be Thargoid conflict zones on the ground, where it's going to be NPC humans fighting NPC Thargoids, and we can go down there, we can sign up for that, and then fight against the Thargoids. That's my guess, at least. Whether we're going to be able to sign up for the Thargoid side, though, that's still a bit up in the air. But again, as I really much stress, this is all just me guessing right now. This is just where I think it is. But with all of this, this is the way that Frontier can implement a lot of stuff without having to reinvent something from the ground up. They are basically all going to be building it on existing technology. They're going to be building in the existing conflict zones that we have in space, the existing conflict zones that we have on the ground. I would love to see a full interior on the StarGoids where we can go and roam around the insides and just shoot Thargoids for days. But I think it is I think it's unlikely because they will have to do some kind of mechanic around how do we dock with a how do we dock with a hostile ship? I mean, you can't just fly up and request docking, and they say, yeah, sure, you can dock over here. There's a landing pad for you. And why would they even have landing pads to start with? I don't know. I think it's unlikely that they're gonna allow us to go inside the StarGoids and fight there. I think it's much more likely we're gonna see it on the ground with the existing conflict zones. Down there, they might just be covered in like StarGoid goo, and there's gonna be holes in the buildings because they've been corroded, stuff like that. Now, in terms of balancing of these fights, at the very beginning, when this first happens, the fight is going to be very, very uneven. We're going to have a very, very hard time killing Thargoids. There's going to be people who kill them within the first hour. I'm absolutely sure of it, no doubt about that. But they're going to be very, very difficult to fight. I think that there's going to be basically starting a new arms race, just as Frontier did with the Interceptors, the space-based Thargoids. They're going to go through the same process again. We're going to start with just our human weapons. They're going to be horribly ineffective against the Thargoids, just like our human weapons is ineffective against the space Thargoids. The ground Thargoids is going to be the same. But we're going to try to fight them anyway, and then there's going to be some community goals probably sometime next year, or maybe at the end of the year, where either Rantar or Payton, they're going to request like a ton of materials. Maybe they're going to request these new unclassified relics, and we're going to go and we're going to deliver a lot of them, and if we deliver them, then suddenly we get a new weapon that's like a human Guardian Thargoid hybrid weapon that we can go, and it's going to make us more effective against the Thargoids. But then all of a sudden there's a new version of the on-foot Thargoids that's going to be more difficult and more difficult to kill. And then this whole arms race kind of starts where we get new weapons, the Thargoids get stronger, we get new weapons, the Thargoids get stronger, and it just goes up and up and up. It keeps going up like that. And that's going to be a process that I think is going to evolve over a very long time. We're looking probably like half a year, maybe a year, something like that. It's going to be a very long, slow process. It's not just going to be something that happens week to week to week. They're going to, when they give us new weapons, they're going to give us time to play with them, also so they can see how we use them and if they need to balance something out in the future, stuff like that. But I'm very interested to know if you think that what I'm saying here is plausible. Do you think that's it? Do you think I'm completely off the mark? Comment section below. Also, if you think I did a good job with this video, please give it a like and maybe even consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks a lot for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys in space.